You plug in the mic, you turn the gain up, you turn the fader up, and you still get no signal. Why? Is there a way that we can follow the signal path all the way from the microphone to the speakers and always know where it goes? I've been there standing like a tool in front of a PA with no sound, but now I have a process that I follow so that I know where the signal is at all times. And I always know how to get it out to the speaker that I want. So here's the signpost method. 3 waymarkers that I use to know where the signal should be, where the signal is going, and if the signal sounds the way it should along the way. Let's dive in. So the first signpost is understand and plan. And this is where we plan the way, we look at the map and we set out where that signal is going to go before we start connecting things willy-nilly all over the place. And we use a tool called block diagrams to do this. Block diagrams are really easy. You can just use a piece of paper, draw a little square and write microphone in it. Then you draw a line and write stage box, and then you write XLR over the line. That's how you plan that a microphone is going into a stage box, and you know that we'll be using an XLR cable to make that happen. So I use block diagrams quite a lot if I have a really complicated setup, especially if I'm rigging it from the ground up and it's not in a venue that I know. I will write down every single item that needs to be connected, what cable I'm going to be using, and I'll even plan out what buses I need in my mixer. Am I using matrices? Is there a mix going to a stream? Is it going to a recorder somewhere? All of this can be planned for in advance, and it just makes your life so much easier when you're out on the job. Sorry, out on the adventure. It really helps you understand how the signal is moving both in and out of the mixer, and it really helps you also troubleshoot and find where the points of failure could be based on where your signal is. But any true audio adventurer would use software, wouldn't they? So why don't you check out something called Whimsical? I think it's whimsical.com. And this is just an app that you can use online, totally for free, to create really cool, really interesting block diagrams. So let's have a look at a system in Whimsical. So you can see I've got a really simple diagram here, right? We've got this, we've got our microphone and it's going to our stage box. And the stage box is then going to the mixer, right? You can write here, okay, it's going to be an XLR cable that's going from the microphone into the stage box. Self-explanatory, right? And then it's going from the stage box to the mixer. Is this a digital stage box? Is it analog? We should write down and find out. If it's analog, we know that it'll also be XLR. But if it's digital, we might want to write that it's a cat cable that we need to connect this up to our mixer. What I've done here is I've moved a row down the way because I know that now I'm thinking about what is inside the mixer, right? And our mic goes into, it actually goes into an input channel first, right? So really I should get rid of this and I should pop another one down here and I should write input channel. Let's say input channel, you know, and so this is all happening inside the mixer. So we know this is digital, it's internal. We could even color code this if we want to know that it's digital. Let's make it green because the matrix, right? We know that it goes from the input channel to the preamp where we add the gain. Then it goes through our high pass filter where we roll off the high frequencies. It then goes to an EQ or maybe a compressor before moving to the fader. When we turn the fader up, it moves the signal to the main mix, and then our main mix is routed out of an XLR output, so we could write that here, XLR. We could color code this now to tell us that it's going back into the physical realm. So let's say red is the physical realm, so there we go. Don't you like that I'm talking about realms when we're talking about adventure? And then it goes into an amplifier, right? And then it's amplified up. And what happens then? It comes out of an amplifier on speak-on cables, right? No longer XLR cables, speak-on cables. So we need to have speak-on cables. And then we've got sound to our venue. But what about if we had, for example, a monitor mix that we wanted to think about? We might then say, hey, well, do you know what? Actually, I need another mix. It's going to be an aux send, right? And I could write here, pre-fade send. We'll do it pre-fade send PF. And then this is now going to be mix bus 1. And then we know that mix bus 1 is going to an output. It's going to its own amplifier. So we know this is going to be red again. That's because it's going to be a real world output. And then from that amplifier on to a speaker again with speak-on cables. You can plan out really, really complex systems with this, and you can zoom in, zoom out and get a really great overview. So this is your map before you go on the adventure of plugging in your microphones and setting up your system. Maybe you're planning out a system including Dante components. Why don't you check out my free Dante cheat sheet? I'll leave that in a link in the description down below. The second part of our journey is that we need to see the path. We need to course correct, and we need to check the signposts along the way to make sure that we are going where we need to go. By that I mean, We need to know that the sound is going where it needs to go. And we do that by using the meters on the console. You can use the solo button on a channel to display on the meters the signal that's coming into that channel. It's called PFL sometimes, it's also called Q, it's probably called some other things as well, but there is a button for every input channel that lets you visualize what's going into that channel on the meters. That way you can check if you have enough gain, you can check if you have any signal at all. And if you see no signal, you know that you need to address the problem upstream of the channel. So is the microphone connected properly? You can also check to see if the signal is reaching a bus. You can get your mix bus that's going to your monitors or your stream, and you can solo that. And you'll see if the signal that you sent to that bus is actually reaching it, and if it is at the volume that you intended it to be. For example, if you soloed it and you saw that the level is a lot lower than you expected, maybe you have the bus set on a post fader send instead of a pre-fader, and the level of your fader on the master fader layer is reducing the amount going to the bus. You can also use the metering on effects, compressors, gates to check if the sound is reaching those units and if it is coming out of them to the point where you expect it to. Maybe this is obvious, but the meters can also tell you if the signal is too high. And remember, you can distort your signal by having it too high, not just at the preamp. If you send it too high into a bus, an effects unit, or a compressor, or add extra gain somewhere, you can distort it further in the mix. And you can also learn to look at the metering screen as a whole to get a big oversight over your mixer and see, is there signal in every channel? Is there signal in every bus that you intend there to be? And you can learn to read this at a glance and know how you're doing. Are there any problems? And you can find them and fix them before they really become problems. The third and final signpost is when we get to our destination, right? And that is when we listen in. But I don't mean just listening in to the sound coming from the speakers in the venue. I mean getting some headphones and then plugging them into your mixer and using the pre-fade listen button, the solo button, the Q button to listen into the signal at that point in the chain. Even if you see signal on the meters of the console, it doesn't mean a lot to you. It's the sound that matters. You might have a nice healthy signal, but when you check in on your headphones, it's actually sounding really, really distorted. That's because the meters are really limited in what they represent. All they show is that there is signal passing where you intend it to be. If you have some sort of problem with the signal coming out of the speakers, why don't you check in how it sounds before it reached the EQ or before it hit any compression? Did it sound good straight off the bat? Or is there a problem with the microphone or the microphone cable? If it sounds good there, then how does it sound on the other side of the EQ, on the other side of the effects? Has there been some sort of distortion introduced at that point in our hero's journey? Our hero being a nice clean signal. If you're mixing monitors, you can solo that monitor bus when you're making adjustments and listen in. If someone tells you that something doesn't sound right in the monitor, make sure that you're checking in and listening. And if you follow these 3 signposts, you'll return home from your adventure with a successful mix. I talked a bunch about buses, pre-fade, post-fade in this video, so I'll leave a video here about pre-fader, post-fader buses. If you thought this was valuable, leave me a comment, let me know. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this content. For now, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.